side proposition needs to understand the justification for their motion and needs to prove it in this debate. The second thing that they need to prove is that they will actually lead to a better decision, because this is one of the burdens that they've actually set on themselves, that this will lead to a better system. So let's start by tackling the first point, the justification. Side prop tries to prove that decision is justified by your knowledge. So once you understand an issue, you can vote and we can be sure that your decision is legitimate. To which we have been asking side proposition for 3 speeches, what is this magic test and where on this magic test do you draw this magic line which guarantees that you are informed about issues? How do you make sure that you can actually make something that means that you are now informed, understand the short and long-term consequences of these really complex issues? This is something side proposition has not proven. And since their whole justification is based on the certainty that these people now know about this issue, they can't prove their main burden, the justification of the motion, because they can't explain where to arbitrarily draw this line, because this line cannot be drawn the way side proposition tries to do it. We have also explained to you why this is unjustified on a second level. And this is because of the disproportion of power. Because this creates this artificial body that's higher than the state, that's higher than the citizens, which somehow decides who gets to vote and who doesn't, what gets to be put on this test. Once again, we ask them, who is this magician who puts together this test that actually makes sure that people know things about politics? Who is competent enough? Which person, which body is smarter than all of us and can actually decide, if you know this, you can vote, if you know this, you can. It's unjustified on a second level. Now let's talk about the decisions. Side proposition opened this whole debate by citing the example of Brexit and how the most Googled thing in the UK after Brexit was, what is the EU? And this is a really nice example, just of teams who only read headlines. Because the number of searches for Brexit was actually 30,000. This is the number of searches for what is the EU after Brexit. This is also the number of invalid ballots in any motion on a, let's say, smaller country like ours, in Croatia. So even if we say that these people were misinformed, this is a very small number. But not only that, side proposition tries to prove that the governments will now be more accountable and this will lead to better decisions. Once again, simply not true. Firstly, because most of the governments and most of the politicians' lies aren't things which are theoretically impossible. They're things which are said as promises, but then not delivered. And this is the problem. And secondly, they will not be held accountable, as it was already analyzed by the third speaker, because these politicians can still lie when either it's not the election cycle or it's not about the issue that's being put on this magic test that side proposition tries to put in the motion. After that, one of the main points was the minorities. And they say that they can actually fix these people, that they can actually give them these basic tests and make sure that they get the information that they need to be informed about the world, to make relevant choices. But we have been proving to you throughout this debate that this is not the issue of not knowing the basics. These minorities are uneducated, they're misinformed, they're discriminated against. There are systemic forms of inequalities which make sure that minorities are being held in a horrible position. And this basic test does not solve it. This is a huge burden that side proposition has put on themselves to actually uplift minorities, to actually make sure that they make a better, more quality decision. And we have proven to you that this cannot be fixed with their magic test. So, side proposition has proven nothing in this debate, because they cannot justify basing this test. They cannot justify saying, this is where we draw the line, these people are educated and they can vote, these people are uneducated and they can. Because there's simply no correlation between being really educated and voting for the societal good. This is what we have been proving to you throughout this debate, and this is why opposition has to take this round. Thank you.